Hello, Raptors family, and welcome to episode 11 of the It's a Raptors Ting podcast. This is your host who knows the most, the scholar baller himself, and this week's episode is entitled The Dark Horse Races. Now, I'm entitling it this because I initially predicted that this upcoming season would be a dark horse season for the Raptors, in which the Raptors subvert expectations and do way better than many people thought that they would initially do, and definitely supersede what it is that many odds makers have the Raptors at sitting at below 500 and perhaps even out of the playoff picture. So definitely looking forward for this season to start. The Raptors did go undefeated in the NBA preseason, so I'm very much on the hype train for the Toronto Raptors. And on October the 25th, the Raptors start their first game of the season against the Minnesota Timber Pups. Timberwolves. I have to refer to them as Timber Pups because ever since that Jimmy Butler practice that went down in infamy a few years back, it's just hard for me to see them as anything but soft, because they don't got that dog in them, they don't got that dog in them. Ultimately, the only player that I really have some degree of reverence for is Anthony Edwards. And I'll get into a little bit as to why I feel that way when talking about some of the matchups here. So, when looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves projected starting lineup, they have Michael Conley, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Rudy Gobert. I personally believe that Mike Conley and Dennis Schroeder, they'll more or less cancel each other out. When I examine the two-guard matchup, now, me personally, this is tough because I feel like the Raptors' wings, aka OG Anunoby and Scotty Barnes, they're pretty interchangeable. I mean, sure, you have Scotty Barnes listed typically at the shooting guard position at this time, and you have OG Anunoby listed at the small forward, but they're pretty much interchangeable role players. So I'm gonna take the creative liberty here and really just see and anticipate the idea that both OG Anunoby and Scotty Barnes will definitely get their fair looks matched up against Anthony Edwards. And ultimately, I ain't worried about Anthony Edwards when it comes to what the Raptors have to offer. I think the Raptors have two excellent defensive wings. So, that's really going to limit the Minnesota Timberwolves options to switch up on screens. They're not going to be able to do that as freely, as we do have two players who can guard him. And even if they try to run screen and rolls with Karl Anthony Towns as the person on the pick, you're definitely going to be able to have Pascal Siakam switch out and guard the perimeter, as Pascal Siakam has shown on multiple occasions to be able to switch out and guard the perimeter effectively. And the Raptors are just a big team. We basically have like one guard, three forwards, and a center. That is our starting lineup. So we're gonna be pretty solid on those switches. Looking at the matchup between, to be honest, I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to be more or less relegated to being a non-factor. I ain't really too worried about him. And going over to Karl Anthony Towns and Pascal Siakam. Karl Anthony Towns has been criticized for being soft, rightfully so. Um, you know, and not only that, but Pascal Siakam is infinitely more effective on the basketball court than Karl Anthony Towns has ever been in his career. Unfortunately, because Pascal Siakam is an international player, compounded by the fact that he plays for the only Canadian team in the league, Pascal Siakam doesn't often get the recognition that he deserves. And there was some slight media day jabbing, that went out at Siakam, and in some ways that's quite a different topic, and I may circle back around to that media day kerfuffle between Ujiri and Siakam, but that's kind of slightly a different topic. The point is, Siakam doesn't necessarily get a lot of the credit that he deserves. I personally feel like it is unrefutable that Pascal Siakam is the second best power forward in the NBA. I'm not quite sure how that somehow got missed, but it'll be interesting to watch Karl Anthony Towns get demolished out there, because Karl Anthony Towns, especially with Minnesota's style of play, he's just going to be pretty stagnant out there, maybe hover around the perimeter, settle for some shots, but there isn't really going to be effective movement. Whereas in stark contrast, Pascal Siakam, he definitely is and always has been an unselfish player. So he's going to play within the rhythm of the offense. He's going to get out and run in transition. And he's not going to look to over dribble. One thing and looking at the preseason games as a sample size, I was very pleased to note that Pascal Siakam did not over dribble whatsoever. He never was caught doing too much, and I feel like that's a welcome contrast in comparison to last NBA season, where Nick Nurse really kind of put the ball in his hands way too much, and just was requiring him to do way too much. Pascal Siakam has always been more effective when he has the freedom and the liberty to get in his groove in the rhythm of the offense, and that's what I'm seeing out there. Rudy Gobert and Jakob Poeltl, they'll duke it out. That'll be fun to see, but nonetheless, the ball movement of the Raptors combined with the Raptors bench. Now it's a little tricky, because with the Raptors bench, there are definitely some players I think that they should sign, and some players that probably shouldn't be on there, or maybe might go to like the G League. I don't know, but personally, there's the obvious bench players who are gonna make it. But in terms of bench players who should probably go down to the G League, like, I think you should probably get rid of Ron Harper Jr., Marquise Noel. You should definitely keep Jalen Freeman Liberty, and keep I believe it's Jalen McDaniels or Jaden McDaniels. Pardon for getting his name mixed up, but yeah, McDaniels should definitely stay as well. So yeah, I think the Raptors bench can definitely outperform the Timberwolves bench. Timberwolves bench seems to have like a bunch of nobodies on it. So it's pretty clear cut. I'm predicting a Raptors win, and I'm predicting a nice statement game. The only real discrepancy that I can cite at this moment in time is in the game against the Washington Wizards, where the Raptors, it was a preseason game, they blew out the Wizards. Unfortunately, Scottie Barnes did sustain an injury, and at this time, we don't know the severity, or at the time of the recording of this video, we don't know the severity of the injury. We obviously hope that the injury is something minor and something that Scottie Barnes could play through and heal from with little to no consequence. So definitely hoping for the best there. But that is somewhat scary. You never want to see one of your top guys go through injuries, and it gets a little worrying, given that Scottie Barnes has gotten injured in the past, and you just hope that it's nothing serious and it's something that he can come back from. So definitely looking forward to October 25th. Mark it on the calendars, Raptors fans. NBA basketball is back. Looking forward to the start of the season. Well, that's it for episode 11 of the It's a Raptors Ting podcast. Shout out to all of the viewers of this channel, all of the subscribers to this channel. I definitely appreciate the support. This is a new channel. We're breaking down Raptors basketball on a Mandem level, and we've really got a daunting task to represent Raptors media the right way. We're going up against a whole lot out there, a whole lot of misrepresentation, a whole lot of embellishing of the facts, and we're here to correct all of that. So if you want more Raptors content, more Raptors coverage, like, comment, and most of all, subscribe to the channel. Saying it's a Raptors ting, eh? Done know.